Ever heard of the greatest financial trick of the modern world? It's a sleight of hand so vast, so simple, that most of us never even see it happening, even though it shapes the value of every single dollar we earn. The United States, the richest nation in history, is also the most indebted. So how is it that it never goes bankrupt? The secret lies in a strange and powerful art. America buys its own debt. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you owe money to yourself? How can a government spend money it doesn't have, lend it to itself, and still call that wealth? It sounds impossible, but that's exactly how the global financial system works, and why it hasn't collapsed. Yet, let's break it down. Every time the US government spends more than it collects in taxes, whether on infrastructure, social programs, or just paying interest on old debts, it borrows the difference. It does this by issuing bonds. You might have heard of them. Treasury bonds, bills, and notes. They're just fancy IOUs. Each bond is a simple promise. Lend us your money today, and we'll pay you back later, with interest. These bonds are sold to investors all over the globe: banks, pension funds, even foreign governments. They're considered the safest investment on earth, because they're so safe, everyone wants a piece. The world's savings literally pour into US debt. The American government spends, and the whole machine keeps chugging along. But here's where the magic trick comes in. What happens when there aren't enough buyers? When the world hesitates to lend more money, or when the demand for US bonds starts to slow down? Well, something extraordinary happens. The buyer of last resort appears, the United States itself. Through a process called quantitative easing, or QE, the Federal Reserve America's central bank creates new money out of thin air and uses it to buy those government bonds. Let me say that again. One arm of the US government issues debt, and another arm of the government buys it with freshly created cash. Debt becomes money. Money becomes debt. It's like a snake eating its own tail, and somehow the system survives. This trick isn't new. It started quietly during a crisis. Back in 2008, when the financial world was teetering on the brink of collapse, panic froze the markets. No one trusted banks. No one wanted to take a risk. So the Federal Reserve stepped in, printing trillions of dollars to buy up US bonds and mortgage securities. And guess what? It worked. Confidence came flooding back. The stock market soared. And America learned a powerful lesson. It could print its way out of a disaster. Fast forward to 2020, a global pandemic shuts down the entire planet. Governments everywhere are desperate for cash. The US debt explodes, rocketing past $30 trillion. And once again, who steps in to buy a huge chunk of it? The Federal Reserve, armed with trillions in newly created dollars. Money from nowhere. Debt without limit. The ultimate financial trick. So, how does this actually work? Picture a circle. First, the US Treasury spends money it doesn't have by issuing bonds. Next, the Federal Reserve buys those bonds using money it creates electronically with a few keystrokes. That new money then flows into the economy to banks, companies, and investors. They then use that cash to buy more bonds, stocks, or other assets. As a result, prices for everything go up. Everyone feels richer, but the debt never actually disappears. It just moves around from one balance sheet to another. And that's the illusion. The United States can print the very currency it borrows in. Unlike almost any other nation, it can never technically run out of dollars because it's the one that makes them. So in theory, it can never default. It can always pay its debt by just creating more money. It's a perfect system until it isn't. Because while this trick keeps the financial machine running, it erodes something invisible but incredibly important: trust. Every time the US buys its own debt, the rest of the world sees a signal. It says that the richest nation on earth can no longer live within its means. And one day, people might stop believing that those dollars are actually worth what they claim to be. History is filled with cautionary tales. In the 1920s, Germany tried to print money to pay off its massive debts after World War I. At first, it seemed to work. Then prices began to rise. Then they skyrocketed. By 1923, people were carrying wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Money had lost its meaning because trust had died. Now, America isn't Weimar Germany. Its economy is vastly stronger, and its currency is the world's reserve. But the fundamental laws of confidence still apply. Money only works because people believe in it. If that belief shatters, no government, no matter how powerful, can just print it back into existence. The real danger here isn't just inflation, it's dependency. The more the Federal Reserve buys U.S. debt, the more the markets become addicted to it. Every time interest rates try to rise, the cost of paying that debt becomes crushing. Every time they fall, borrowing explodes again. It's a loop with no clear exit. A financial addiction that keeps the illusion alive but slowly weakens the patient over time. Consider this staggering fact. In the 1980s, the entire U.S. national debt was less than $1 trillion. Today, it's over $35 trillion and growing by another trillion roughly every 100 days. The interest payments alone now cost more than the entire military budget. And yet, the government keeps borrowing, confident that someone, somewhere, will buy those bonds. And if no one else does, they know the Fed will. It's the ultimate confidence game. A magic act performed in broad daylight, with the whole world applauding. Other nations watch in either awe or envy, because no other country can pull this off. Japan has tried, Europe has tried. But only America has the world's reserve currency. Only America can print the money that everyone else needs to conduct business. That's the secret, that's the power. And that's the danger. Because history shows that every empire that discovers this power eventually abuses it. The Roman Empire debased its silver coins to fund endless wars. Spain flooded Europe with gold from the New World, causing runaway inflation that bankrupted the empire. Britain printed and borrowed to maintain its colonies, until the weight of its debts crushed it. Every single one of them learned the same hard truth. You can fake wealth for a time, but you can't fake it forever. The U.S. bond trick is the modern version of that same timeless illusion. It allows America to fund trillion-dollar deficits, global conflicts, and vast social programs without anyone feeling the immediate pain. But each new round of printing makes future inflation harder to control and weakens the dollar's credibility on the world stage. Still, the system holds together because, for now, almost everyone benefits. Politicians get to spend money without the unpopular act of raising taxes. Banks earn massive fees from the bond trade. Investors get rich from rising asset prices. And ordinary citizens enjoy low interest rates and easy credit. It feels like prosperity. But it's a borrowed prosperity borrowed directly from the future. So what happens when that future finally arrives? What happens when the interest payments on the debt consume the entire federal budget? When global trust in the dollar finally begins to fade? When the Fed can no longer print money without triggering runaway inflation? No one really knows for sure. No empire has ever operated on this scale before. Some economists argue that technology and innovation will save us, that economic growth will eventually outpace the debt. Others warn that a final reckoning is coming, not as a sudden crash, but as a slow, steady erosion of our purchasing power, a long slide from global dominance to dependency. The final twist is this. The very system that gives America its incredible power also ensures it can never stop borrowing. If the U.S. suddenly stopped issuing new bonds, the entire global financial system would seize up. Pension funds, central banks, and major corporations around the world hold trillions in U.S. treasuries as their safest asset. The world economy needs U.S. debt to function. It's not just an American addiction, it's the world's. And so the trick continues. The Treasury borrows. The Fed buys. The world pretends it's all perfectly sustainable. And the illusion rolls forward day after day, decade after decade. But every illusion depends on belief, and belief is a fragile thing. The moment that confidence cracks, whether from inflation, a geopolitical conflict, or just simple fatigue, the magic stops. And when it does, the world will finally see what the richest nation on earth truly owes. Not in dollars, but in trust. Because the real debt isn't just financial. It's the promise that a piece of paper has value, that tomorrow will always be able to repay today. When that promise breaks, the system breaks with it. Until then, the show goes on. The bonds are sold. The money is printed. The world keeps buying. And the illusion, beautiful, dangerous, and incredibly profitable, remains unbroken. For now, thanks for watching. If you found this explanation eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into how our world really works. See you in the next one.